Chair recognizes the member for Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. Mr. Deputy, today I stand on behalf of the good and the proud constituents of the Elizabeth constituency. The residents of the Elizabeth constituencies chose me, Mr. Deputy, to be their voice in this honorable place and to represent their interests in this honorable place. Now, Mr. Deputy, we come here today to debate the Boundaries Commission report that has made extensive and deliberate revisions to the constituency boundaries. And Mr. Deputy, these changes have affected the residents of Elizabeth more than most other constituencies in this great Commonwealth. Mr. Deputy, the current constituency of Elizabeth, under the proposed redistricting, has lost 7 of its 12 polling divisions, replaced by 6 new polling divisions out of the current Yamacraw and St. Anne's constituencies. Mr. Deputy, more than half of the residents of Elizabeth have been disenfranchised by this government, have been misled by this government, and have told me, Mr. Deputy, that they will make this free national movement government pay for such an egregious an attempt to manipulate the democracy of this great country, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. See, Mr. Deputy, I sat here and I listened to the Prime Minister's contribution when he tabled the new boundaries report. And I'm amused, Mr. Deputy, at his attempt to be sincere and to try to sell the new boundaries on a statistical analysis, when it is clear and very clear, Mr. Deputy, even to me, a new member in this honorable place, that these reconfigurations were motivated solely by personal motives, once again showing the MO of this government, choosing politics, Mr. Deputy, over people. I cannot tell you how many times, Mr. Deputy, I've heard the Prime Minister say that he is going to take care of the honourable member for St. Thomas More. Likewise, Mr. Deputy, I cannot tell you how many times the Prime Minister has said, in this place and others, out of frustration, that I will be the shortest sitting member in the House of Assembly. Mr. Deputy, it's as if the man cannot get over being beat. Less than 2 years ago, getting beat in the Elizabeth by-election. Clearly, Mr. Deputy, this redistricting was motivated by personal vengeance and not by things that were in the best interest of the Bahamian people.
That's true.
See, Mr. Deputy, despite these threats by the Prime Minister, and despite his personal motivation against certain members on this side,
That's right.
one thing is clear, Mr. Deputy. Those that he focused on, those on this side that he had keen interest on, including myself and my colleagues sitting to the right of me, once again will demonstrate to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and to the Prime Minister sitting on that side and all of his cohorts with him that they will get beat. They will get beat. See, the Prime Minister proclaimed over and over during the by-election, "I'm going to beat that boy! I'm going to beat that boy!" Over and over and over and over again, you heard it. Well, guess what? This side won the by-election. This side won the by-election. Not that side. Not the Prime Minister. This side won. So despite the intentions of the Prime Minister, Mr. Deputy, despite how he draws the lines, Mr. Deputy, one thing is for sure. His actions will not change the minds of the Bahamian people. Bahamians demand people over politics, Mr. Deputy. That is what I offer. That is what my current constituents know of me, and that is what my new constituents can expect of me as we go into the general elections. And despite any of the gerrymandering attempts, Mr. Deputy, the Free National Movement will lose these general elections. And despite any gerrymandering attempts, Mr. Deputy, the Progressive Liberal Party will win the next general elections. Which means, Mr. Deputy, the Bahamian people will ultimately win. And despite, Mr. Deputy, in the confidence I have and my ability to win, in our ability to win. Gerrymandering as a principle, Mr. Deputy, is wrong. And in my opinion, Mr. Deputy, it puts at risk the democracy that we enjoy in this very country. See, a sitting government, Mr. Deputy, should run on its performance. It should run on its history and should not have to resort to playing petty politics to try to win an election, Mr. Deputy. Mr. Deputy, the practice of gerrymandering involves the attempt...
Order. Members who are seated, please. Members who are seated, please keep your voices down.
Mr. Deputy, thank you. The practice of gerrymandering involves the attempt to concentrate one's extreme opponents in unwinnable districts, or what they call throwaway seats, and spread one's own supporters evenly over winnable districts, which is called smoothing. See, this is exactly what we've witnessed by this F&M government. Some say that we have in front of us the most extreme attempt to manipulate an election based on constituency boundary gerrymandering in recent memory. See, Mr. Deputy, it is my belief that extreme gerrymandering, as we are witnessing with these boundaries, is a threat to the democratic institution of our country. And many well-respected institutions agree with this philosophy. I quote, Mr. Speaker, "Democracy is at a risk when partisan gerrymandering ensures that elections are over before the people vote." And the book, Democracy at Risk, quotes, "The current practice of giving the power to redraw district lines to incumbent partisan politicians armed with powerful computers and accurate maps allows them to craft non-competitive districts ever more effectively. This, in turn, undermines political interest, along with it voting and a host of vital participatory activities." The New York Civil Liberties Union have weighed in on this, saying, "For our electoral system to operate fairly, a government must remain neutral in administering it. Political gerrymandering creates sham democracy. What good is your vote when the election districts have been set up to ensure that your vote doesn't matter?" Now see, Mr. Deputy, I am not of the view that blatant political attempt to manipulate the elections by this F&M government will in fact achieve their goals. I am of the firm belief, Mr. Deputy, that the Progressive Liberal Party will be the next government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Mr. Deputy, not only will we govern just a few months from now because of the clear failures and mismanagement of this country's affairs by this government, but because of the plans and programs we have on this side for the Bahamas and all Bahamians to participate in. We are, Mr. Deputy, the better option for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and all of the residents that live in it. See, Mr. Deputy, Bahamians believe in a party that believes in them. Let me say it again. Bahamians, Mr. Deputy, believe in a party that believes in them. It is clear, very clear, which party in this honorable place believes in Bahamians. And Bahamians day by day, Mr. Deputy, express to me that they believe in the PLP, and the PLP believes in putting people over politics. See, Mr. Deputy, these draconian activities by this F&M demonstrate the level of fear and the level of paranoia that they are experiencing. A reduction of seats in New Providence and Grand Bahama demonstrate the extent of this paranoia and the lack of support of the Bahamian people and their expression of that lack of support to this governing party. Likewise, Mr. Deputy, the goal of concentrating PLP supporters in certain constituencies and creating more what are assumed to be marginal constituencies demonstrate further paranoia and the choice of politics over people. Mr. Deputy, this plan, however, is very flawed. And like we have all said today and we've heard today, people vote, not boundary lines. We also recognize that there is a significant level of disdain for this F&M government by Bahamian people throughout the country. This disdain is brought on by the mismanagement of the affairs of the Bahamas. The pain inflicted on the backs of ordinary Bahamians throughout this entire Commonwealth by this government and their mismanagement. Mr. Deputy, Bahamians cry out every day because of the destruction of Bahamian-owned businesses. The complete disregard, Mr. Deputy, for the continued and sustainable employment of Bahamians. Mr. Deputy, Bahamians today struggle to keep a roof over their head. They struggle, Mr. Deputy, day in and day out to put food on the table. I propose that it is because of the F&M's mismanagement of this country, from its economic affairs, Mr. Deputy, to the roadworks, Mr. Deputy, to the financial status of this country where we get downgraded seems like every month these days, Mr. Deputy, to the pressures on Bahamian businesses that has caused pain and suffering to scores of Bahamians throughout this Commonwealth. Bahamians are upset, Mr. Deputy, upset at this government. It is evident, and it is the basis for the desperation that we witness today in this honorable House. Mr. Deputy, the Bahamian people want a party that puts them over politics. And I put it to you that that party is the Progressive Liberal Party. So you see, Mr. Deputy, the creation of more marginal seats in an era and in an environment of extreme dissatisfaction with this government, and the intrigue by thousands and thousands of Bahamians throughout of the plans and the programs that the PLP has to offer, the suite of candidates that the PLP has to offer. I believe, Mr. Deputy, because of this, in just a few months, the PLP will win by the highest proportion ever seen in this Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Whenever that election may be called, we will be there, and we will win, and you will hear PLP, 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 as the roster is called all throughout. See, I can say this, Mr. Deputy, because I listen to the Bahamian people. I listen to them. I listen to the level of dissatisfaction, not only from the general public, but more significantly from the core F&M supporters. It is my prediction, Mr. Deputy, these boundaries revisions, motivated out of the desperation of this F&M government, they will backfire. They will allow more and more Bahamians to realize and understand that the PLP has the right plan to govern this country. The PLP has the best team to govern this country. And the PLP will be the next government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And in doing so, they will realize it is the PLP that put people over politics. Mr. Deputy, the constituency of Elizabeth, as currently proposed by the Boundaries Commission in their report we are debating today, is far from the Elizabeth constituency that I, just less than 2 years ago, ran in the by-election to represent their interests and won. As mentioned earlier, Mr. Deputy, 7 of the polling divisions have been removed. Almost all of the Seabreeze section of Elizabeth has been removed, Mr. Deputy. And I thank them for the opportunity to serve them in this honorable place. And I want to let them know that Senator Hope Strawn will do a great job representing their interests shortly after the elections are called. Mr. Deputy, a polling division in Elizabeth Estates has been removed. And the majority of the current Elizabeth residents no longer reside in what will be Elizabeth. Under the proposed lines, Mr. Deputy, the majority of Elizabeth includes everything from Joe Farrington Road and Marigold Farms, straight east to the water, south to the water, inclusive of areas north on Fox Hill Road to Prince Charles. Included are 2 current polling divisions in Elizabeth Estates, a polling division that comprises Sandilands Village Road to Prince Charles, Cool Acres, Lumumba Road, all those remain. Mr. Deputy, I would like to say what the new areas are. They include Hannah Road, which I have a colleague that lives on, Yamacraw Beach Estates, Yamacraw Shores, Seagull Gardens, St. Andrews Beach Estates, Treasure Cove, and Port New Providence. And although fundamentally different, Mr. Deputy, the continuing residents and the new residents of the new Elizabeth continue to tell me the same message that the residents of Elizabeth just 18 months ago, less than 2 years ago, told me. Doesn't matter how the lines are cut. It doesn't matter how many new residents might be in Elizabeth. Because at the end of the day, whenever the bell is rung, all of the constituents of Elizabeth will be saying, this time, once again, we are trying Ryan, and we will win this election. We will win this election with Ryan Pinder. You see, Bahamians, Mr. Deputy, they recognize good representation. Bahamians recognize and appreciate those who are honest and sincere. Those new constituents have told me, you see, Mr. Deputy, I've been on the ground. I've been in my new areas. I have listened to the people and what they have told me. And they have said, we welcome you, Ryan. We have great representation with my big sister, Honorable Melanie Griffin. But we have also heard about the good things you have done. In short time, 18 months, the great things you have done in Elizabeth. They say we are encouraged, Mr. Deputy, and we will support you. That is what they tell me. By the droves, Mr. Deputy, that is what they tell me. Mr. Deputy, the residents of Treasure Cove and Port New Providence tell me, they say they haven't seen their member of parliament in 5 years. And some of them say they didn't even see him during the last election. I don't know where the member of St. Anne's has been, but he surely hasn't been there. And see, these residents tell me they want effective representation. They want somebody who cares for their interests, Mr. Deputy. They tell me they have seen what you have done in 18 months. And they pledge their support for me. See, Mr. Deputy, this election is not the normal election. This is an election about relationships. This is an election about the citizens who care about policies for their best interest. We heard from the member from Marathon who says those people in 07 might not be the same. Well, let me tell you, they are not the same. When I speak to the residents in Treasure Cove, you know what they say? Oh, Ryan, I remember when we were little boys together. Yeah, man, you have my support because I know you're genuine. I know you are the man that I want to represent me. That's what they say. You know what they say, Mr. Deputy? They say this party line stuff, this is a bunch of foolishness. I trust you, Ryan. I trust you. I trust what you will do. I trust how you will represent me. That's what they tell me. That's what they tell me. And they say, that member from St. Anne's who hasn't been here in 5 years? Sorry. We are with you, Ryan. We are with you. So, Mr. Deputy, those who have supported the F&M all their lives, they have pledged their support for me. Treasure Cove, they have pledged their support for me. Port New Providence, they have even pledged their support for me. So it's certainly a new day, Mr. Deputy. It is a new day in Elizabeth. So you have a partner with me for many years to come in the great constituency of Elizabeth, Mr. Deputy. So we will continue our community initiatives together, providing for the youth, supporting the youth, providing opportunities to succeed, Mr. Deputy. We will bring the message of empowerment to all in Elizabeth, the message of community advancement to all who live in Elizabeth. That is the message of the PLP, and that is the message of choosing people over politics.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mr. Deputy, the PLP has taken a position that we support an independent Constituency Boundaries Commission. The integrity of our democracy and the constitutional purpose of the constituency boundaries requires such, in my opinion, independence in the deliberation and determination of the boundaries. We might have different opinions on the mechanics, on how an independent commission might operate. For example, my personal belief, Mr. Deputy, is that a basis for deciding the population distribution should be done every 10 years based on the census. Yes. That is my belief. Yes. And that is what I put forward. The Bahamian Constitution provides the relevant article. In carrying out a review for the purposes of this article, the Commission shall be guided by the general consideration that the number of voters entitled to vote for the purpose of electing every member of the House of Assembly shall, so far as reasonably practical, be the same and the need to take into account special considerations such as the needs of sparsely populated areas, the practically of elected members maintaining contact with electors in such areas. See, Mr. Deputy, instead of drawing boundary lines based on registered voters at some arbitrary point in time, the census figures would be an objective determination of our population distribution. The argument is put forward that because of the language quoted above, and specifically the voters entitled to vote, that registered voters is the proper measurement. But this measurement is at an arbitrary point in time, and Bahamians will register after the constituency boundary lines are determined, therefore making this statistical analysis flawed in and of itself. Yes. The language voters entitled to vote, Mr. Deputy, I argue, includes all Bahamians over the age of 18 who by law have the option to register and the option to vote. That is what, in my opinion, that phrase encompasses. And that is why, Mr. Deputy, the census, in my opinion, every 10 years is the most objective way to measure that determination. See, as my opinion, Mr. Deputy, what we have before us today fails these guidelines and simply is an exercise of political gerrymandering. However, I believe Bahamian people will stand tall and say, Mr. Prime Minister, it's no longer politics as usual in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. It's time for you to go. Yes. It's time for you to go. Yes, yes. This is a new day in Bahamian politics, being ushered in by the Progressive Liberal Party. A day where we see people over politics and all government determinations and deliberations. Mr. Deputy, that is what I believe in. That is what I am committed to. This is what the next government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is committed to. A POP government will deliver to the Bahamian people. Mr. Deputy, in conclusion, I want to be clear. The process we debate today is flawed. There are better ways to draw constituency boundary lines. The motives of this government, Mr. Deputy, in creating these constituencies are likewise flawed, motivated out of fear and desperation, motivated out of the desire for personal vengeance. Despite the flaws, however, Mr. Deputy, in what we see today, I want the Bahamian people to know. I want the constituents of Elizabeth to know. I want the new constituents of Elizabeth to know that after the general elections, I will continue to represent your interests in this honorable place. Yes. I will continue to represent your interests in putting people over politics. Your interests and concerns will be represented in the same fashion I have done so for 18+ months. I will represent you honestly, I will represent you aggressively, and with the intent and the desire to see Elizabeth a safer and a better place to live for the next 5 years. And Mr. Deputy, as my leader told me, and told many residents in Elizabeth when we kicked off the campaign for the by-election, on this side, there will be no retreat, and there will be no surrender. Thank you, Mr. Deputy, for your indulgence.
As many? Chair recognizes the member for Gold.